You've just seen some tricky situations involving multiple variables and interesting ordering. Here, hand simulating to figure out what the computer does is key. Now let's talk about scope. I've linked the video on scope if you don't remember what I mean by variable scope. Scope is what differentiates a local variable from a global variable. A local variable is stuck in the block of code that it was defined in, usually a method, whereas a global variable has a little bit more freedom to go to different parts of the program. Let's look at a few different questions to see if you understand the difference. In these exercises, we're going to look at longer code examples. All of these examples will either have no errors or will have an error involving scope. Here's the first example. In this scenario, let's say you're a market researcher and you've made an app to figure out which sugary drink consumers prefer, Udasa Cola or Pepsi. You'll talk to people on the street and hand them 2 drinks, and then ask them to vote with the app to say which one they like better. Let's look at the code that goes with this. These ellipses here and here mean that there's more code that I'm not showing you. But I'm showing you the important code that has to deal with voting. When you click the Udasa Cola button, it'll call the vote Udasa Cola method, which adds 1 to Udasa Cola votes, a variable that's meant to keep track of how many people have voted for Udasa Cola. In the same way, let's say that you've programmed the XML so that when you click on the Pepsi button, it calls the vote Pepsi method, which also adds 1, but instead to the number of Pepsi votes. Then, for the sake of argument, let's say that there's a third secret button which only you can use, which will show the votes. That button we'll call the Show Me Votes method, which will show the Udasa Cola votes versus the Pepsi votes, so you can compare the two for your research. Okay, so let's start thinking about the scope of some of these variables. We'll look at the Udasa Cola votes variable first. From what you see here in the code right now, is Udasa Cola votes a local variable or a global variable? Now, this doesn't mean should it be a local variable or should it be a global variable. Look at the code and tell me, is it instantiated and defined as a local variable or as a global variable? After you answer this, there's going to be one more additional question.